What's up guys, welcome back to Deck Tech for Decks. I'm your host Caleb. If you guys want to support the channel, you can click on that whatnot link in the description down below. You'll get a free $15 whenever you sign up, and you'll be supporting the channel whenever you do that. Additionally, you can join the Patreon. You'll get to vote weekly on a deck tech that I cover on the channel, and again, you'll be supporting the channel. Special shout out to my high contributing patrons, Newsom, you rock. Now, let's get into today's deck tech. I asked you guys, hey, if you guys can get to 500 likes on the Stella Lee Precon upgrade, I will do a cEDH deck tech on her, and you guys delivered, so here is that cEDH deck tech. Now, Stella Lee in a cEDH setting is going to be a little different. Now, the first obstacle, and I do say obstacle very lightly because she is just very busted, I do believe that she's probably the most broken commander and the most powerful commander we've gotten this year this far. Now, what you're going to want to do is cast 2 setup spells and then cast your combo spell to draw your entire deck or kill the entire table, right? So we want to include some certain cards that are very good. If Stella Lee's already on the battlefield, it's extremely easy to cast a tutor and then something that generates mana and then your combo card to win the game. Now, untapping with Stella is going to be interesting because people are going to try to kill her as soon as possible if they can. I doubt she makes it around the table unless you're holding open counter magic. But we are in Izzet colors, so a good percentage of this deck is just going to be counter magic because, again, we need to protect our commander. This is kind of a more mid-rangey deck, and I say mid-rangey very lightly. There is over 20 counter spells in the deck, so that's where the mid-range comes from, but don't get this twisted. This deck can easily win turn 3. I just find in cEDH, especially in more competitive settings where there's a lot of blue, the guy that goes for it first gets stopped 9 times out of 10, so we're okay with sitting back and trying to win turn 4 instead of turn 3 if that means we actually get the win instead of getting our win countered, if that makes sense. Now, the play pattern's very simple. We want to mull for some card advantage, then we want to get our combo pieces, and we want to get a little bit of setup. Now, the setup is not hard. We do have to cast 3 spells, but that's incredibly easy. I've even been able to cast a Mox into an Offer You Can't Refuse that will net us 2 treasure tokens, and then we can combo off with Cerulean Wisps. This girl is incredibly flexible, and if you get her to stick on the battlefield, you can probably win the game. I have even included cards that give her haste. You know, you cast Stella, you give her haste, and then again, that third card is your combo piece. There's a lot of very good ways we can get there. So without further ado, I'm going to cover the combo pieces, the setup cards, and we're going to cover the strategy of the deck, what you should be looking for in your open hand. Because when going over a cEDH deck tech, I think that knowledge is more impactful than what's in the 99, since a lot of what's already in the 99, if it's not unique to the commander, is self-explanatory. Since we're already playing our fast mana, we're already playing our counter spells, so I'm only going to go over the cards that are unique to this commander, and I will just explain some niche interactions like I did with the Offer You Can't Refuse. So without further ado, let's get into this deck tech. First thing first, let's get the combos and how we win the game out of the way. Twisted Fealty is one of the best cards in the deck because it's just going to kill the entire table. All we have to do is ensure this is our 3rd spell and Stella's on the battlefield, and we will win the game since we will create infinite amount of those wicked roll tokens, and that will machine gun down the entire table. Cerulean Wisps, Twitch, and Refocus are cards that can put our entire deck into our hand, but don't necessarily win us the game, but I will go over how we win the game later. Again, kind of the same thing here. Ensure these are the 3rd spell we cast, and then we can generate an infinite amount of these with Stella and draw our entire deck. Dramatic Reversal is more of a flexible card in this deck, but it can win you the game with the right pieces. Now, 9 times out of 10, I'm casting this as one of my setup cards to untap my mana rocks to actually cast the real card that's going to win me the game, but in a scenario where we have the One Ring on the battlefield or a way to generate infinite mana and utilize that infinite mana, Dramatic Reversal with Stella does just generate you infinite mana or draw your deck with the One Ring on the battlefield. So that's something to remember, but again, 9 times out of 10, this will just be a value play that untaps our mana rocks that allows us to play the actual card that's going to win us the game. Now that we have our entire deck in our hand, how do we win the game? Well, we can just go for the Twisted Fealty win now that we have our entire deck in our hand and enough rocks to generate that 3 3 red mana, or we can go for the Underworld Breach Brain Freeze combo. All you need is Brain Freeze, Lion's Eye Diamond, and Underworld Breach, and this will allow you to get an insanely high storm count and mill out all of our opponents. Then we are on Wheel of Fortune to make them draw a card with their empty library, and we will win the game that way. There's also another kind of one card win the game combo, but you do need some pieces in your hand. It's Intuition, surprise, surprise. Now, this can grab us all of our combo pieces like Cerulean Wisps, Twitch, and Refocus, so we can go ahead and go for that line. Or if we have Underworld Breach in our hand, we can grab Lion's Eye Diamond and Brain Freeze, and they already know what's coming. So this is going to be a very flexible card that can grab all of our winning pieces, and it's just very powerful in general. You can even go for the value route, and you can grab Rhystic Study, Rhystic Remora, and the One Ring. Let's talk about how we want to set up winning with Stella. Now, the best case scenario is we hardcast her and she actually survives a round of the table. Then, in our best case scenario, we have a tutor in hand with a ritual. So what we're going to do is we're going to cast our Mystical Tutor, then we're going to cast our ritual, allowing us to play our Cerulean Wisp. That's going to be the second card we cast that turn. Stella will trigger and we will exile the top card of our library. That card will be our combo piece, surprise, surprise, and we can go off from there. Now, again, best case scenario, that's what's going to happen. Some tutors of note, we have Solve the Equation, Mystical Tutor, Personal Tutor, Merchant Scroll, all very good to put our card on top of our library or even in our hand. From there, some of the best setup cards are our rituals with Lotus Petal, Strike It Rich, Mox Diamond, Chrome Mox, Mox Opal. The ones that cost 0 are very useful here because they don't cost us any mana and they are our second spell for turn, and they will net us at least 1 mana to cast our Cerulean Wisps. Mana Crypt, again, all very good here. We do have Gitaxian Probe. This one's not as flexible because it doesn't give us mana, but it will let us know if that blue player is holding up any interaction. Mana Vault, again, just all of our mana rocks are going to be good. I'm calling them rituals here, but you guys know what I mean. And then we're actually on rituals. We have Rite of Flame, Pyretic Ritual, Desperate Ritual, Seething Song, Jeska's Will, and then an Offer You Can't Refuse is kind of a ritual here because, again, I have won the game by just going ahead and casting a Mox. You counter the Mox, you get those 2 treasure tokens, and that's going to net you the mana to cast your third spell that you're going to combo off with. Snap is very useful as well. It untaps 2 lands, and it can bounce maybe a very important stacks piece, so very flexible here. Frantic Search, same thing. Draws you cards and untaps the lands that you're utilizing. And then we have Imperial Recruiter lines because we are on Dockside. So you can go Imperial Recruiter, Dockside, or Sticker Goblin, and that's going to net you enough mana to cast your Filthy and win the game. Let's talk about how we can kind of catch our opponents off guard and win out of nowhere with Stella starting in the command zone. The first thing we want to do is generate a ton of mana. This is going to involve a Seething Song, a Jeska's Will, Dockside Extortionist, or Sticker Goblin. Now that we have a ton of mana, we can easily cast Stella. We're going to give her haste with Expedite or Crimson Wisp, and then from there, even if we want to be a little bit more protected, we can use that extra mana into a Defense Grid or a Spell Skite. I'm even on Overmaster to prevent them from countering our winning spell. Notably with Defense Grid, do not cast Defense Grid until you are going for it. This is meant to be the first spell you cast on the turn you go for it to prevent those counter magic. Now, this is a mid-range deck, so you don't want to just throw this out there willy-nilly and turn all of your counterspells off. Born Upon the Wind is another way we can really catch them off guard. Wait for someone else to go for the win, everybody spins their counter magic, and then you cast Born Upon the Wind as your first card, Dockside Extortionist as your second card, and then you cast your Twisted Filthy and win the game from there. Stella Lee is just very flexible, and that enables her to pull off some pretty crazy wins. Moving on to the more miscellaneous part of the deck, we are on Fury. This is going to snipe that stacks piece right before you go for the win, and it will count as a card per turn, so it's very useful with Stella. We have our card advantage pieces with Rhystic Study, the One Ring, Mystic Remora, very useful here. I'm on Mists of Lorien. Again, bouncing those stacks pieces is very impactful here. You can't win through a Rule of Law effect, so we do need to be running some effects to get rid of those. Hall of the Bandit Lord seemed like a very good use here. We just play it as our land for turn, cast Stella, Stella has haste. People aren't ready for that, and we can go off and win the game. Muddle the Mixture can actually grab 2 of your combo pieces in here. We can grab our Underworld Breach, or we can grab Refocus. So again, very flexible here. It does cost a lot of mana, but it's more of a late game option when you're digging. Transmute Artifact seemed very good here. We're running a lot of artifacts and we're running a lot of rituals. So the fact that we can just play Ritual, play Transmute Artifact, get the 1 ring on the battlefield, that's very flexible, and the 1 ring just wins games, guys. It can also grab you your defense grid the turn you're trying to go off. This card's just very flexible. From there, guys, we're just running a ton of interaction. I'm not going to bore you with all of it, but there's 20 plus counter spells in here. There's Mists of Lorien. We have ways to bounce our opponent's things. We're on Flusterstorm. All of the cEDH staples to ensure we're preventing people from winning the game. Oh, one last thing, we are on Finale of Fortune, right? Just in case we do get stopped, taking an extra turn here is very useful, and sometimes that extra turn just gets you there. It can also be pseudo haste, right? We cast Stella Lee, but she doesn't have haste, but we have win in hand. We just cast Stella Lee, then Final Fortune, boom, Stella Lee kind of got haste. With that being said, guys, that's going to be the end of the deck tech. The full deck list and link to the moxfield is in the description down below. Don't forget to like the video if you made it this far. I would like to shout out my patrons, Newsome, Excessum, Prater, and Chicken Salad. You guys are amazing. I hope this helped you in your deck building endeavors, and I will see you in the next one.